Hey, Escape Pod listeners, a quick warning before this episode begins. It does include content that involves violence against children and teens.
If ever your life could be a true crime podcast episode, then this podcast is for you. We're about to embark on a roller coaster of emotions, insights, survival, and stories about escape. So buckle up and let the journey begin.
Now we're rolling.
Are we this time?
We are. Well, we were before,
We just
but
weren't.
not the right way.
You're rolling on 3 or 4 wheels instead of 2 tracks.
Yeah,
maybe?
kind of. Or
Okay.
8. There's like 8 channels on this bad boy. We only need 2 of them today.
Well, just wait. Maybe when we grow up, we can test
Have-
out all 8 at the same time. We'll see how that goes.
Make my head spin.
How would that be? So, okay, when we actually have help in editing, then we can do that.
Oh,
Hey, cut your teeth on this, sweetheart.
those are dreams.
I know. It's going to happen one day.
Dreams
Hey,
to be had.
hey, right off the top, we didn't think it would take us only 6 months to hit.
It's true.
Okay. We talked months ago about what the podcast world or industry measures, and it's downloads, not people listening to your episode, how many downloads, and for whatever reason. So we had to hit 1,000 downloads or more before we could be monetized. And we
In a month.
sailed over, in a calendar month, we sailed over 1,000, hit over 1,200. So yay us.
Yay us.
We rang the bell for that.
Yes.
That was exciting.
Us being Julie and Charity and our helpers in the building and listeners everywhere.
Yes.
You're in the Escape Pod now, folks. Thanks for jumping in with us.
I probably texted 100 people that day, like, we are so close. We're so close. Can you please support us? So
Yeah.
they did. And they came in clutch. And, when I think it was 70. I think we were 70 away from 1,000. And I'm like, we only release episodes right now on Fridays. And so we just happen to have a 5 Friday month. And I'm like, if we don't do it now, and it's going to be a 4 Friday month next month and the month after that and the month after that. So we have to get it. And so I just started hounding like, please, 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 please. And then the 70 was like that.
Yeah.
And then it just kept going and it kept going and it went for like a couple of days. And I was like, this is exciting.
It is
So thank you and welcome. You want to tell everybody who's new to us what our podcast is about, Julie?
So it's about escaping all the things. So we call it a traumedy for a reason because we do touch on trauma and true crime. But hopefully because we work in the human services world and sometimes, as the old saying goes, if you don't laugh, you will cry. We do cry sometimes.
Which I have done within probably the last 20 minutes.
I have not cried within the last 20 minutes, but I have cried within the last, when did that first call come in? About 3 hours.
Yeah.
So that's my escape this week. We always start by talking about what we're escaping from. Darn those kids who place online threats that have to be investigated. And my kiddos were at 2 of the schools where they went on secure status because of it. And I do appreciate the fact that the district uses their communication channels. I would rather have over communication than not enough communication any day of the week and twice on Sunday. But I did receive probably a half a dozen calls within because we got the first one and then it was a while before we got an update. And so within the last half hour, there were 4
Yeah.
as
Somebody
they
must have
started
said
to
something, yeah.
release,
Yeah.
as schools went off secure status, they would call and send a text and send an email. And anyway, so fortunately, all secure status lifted at all the schools. And man, it sucks.
I know. I'm so grateful my kids are grown and out of the school at this stage because it's a lot.
Well, and it doesn't help. And a lot of times what prompts these people thinking they're funny or something or they're whatever the
Cool.
reason might be.
Edgy.
Maybe, but a
Cry
school
for help,
shooting
yeah.
that made national news
I'm
out
upset.
of Georgia yesterday. And so, this morning it's on the news and my kids are watching and I almost didn't even know what to do or say because they know they do training to
Right.
start every year about the best way that we know of at this point to try to prevent injury in such an event or worse. And yeah, I thought, do I address it? Do I not? I kind of froze in that moment as I walked into the living room.
Did they ask anything about it?
They said nothing. Like, it was time to go. I'm like, turn off the TV.
Isn't that a statement, though, to what our country is like and what our kids have been exposed to in the last 30 years, is that this is a normal, everyday thing?
That thought crossed my mind.
It's not okay.
Yeah. Because I was in college. I was a freshman in college when Columbine happened, and that's typically noted as kind of the first big one, right? That made national news, got a lot of attention, live coverage for days in Colorado. Maybe not everywhere, but my gosh. I mean, talk about just being inundated all day, every day with updates and more information about this thing that happened. And I had friends who had younger siblings that were at that school. I had a good friend in the journalism department who had the teacher, like the teacher who died was his teacher a couple years before that. You know, I don't know. That sticks. That sticks a lot.
Stick,
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think my kids don't know any different. Like, that training is part of their school year. And that's heartbreaking. It is.
It's awful.
So hopefully
all clear
they'll
right
be
now?
Yep, they'll be getting out here in just a little bit.
Somebody's getting in trouble.
And somebody's in big trouble.
Rightfully
as
so.
they should be. Yeah. What are you escaping today?
I think I have 1,000 things I could say. The one thing I will say is I'm escaping, I hope, which I'm not. I'm going to walk out of the studio and it's going to still be there smacking me in the face, is we have such an amazing E-team here, executive team, and
I'm nodding because I'm part of it.
She's part of it. She's been part of it from the beginning. And so this team had come together before we opened.
Yeah.
And we've been on this whole journey together. And an instrumental part of the team has just announced he's breaking up with us and going away and taking his toys and going to a different frickin' agency with the state. He's not going to have any fun, by the way. He's going to be bored. He's going to boy, I have a lot to say about that, which I did say to him. I told him I'd lobby him hard. And it just sucks because he's sad about it and we're sad about it. And and it could not be at the worst time. Yeah. Like, it is the worst time. There is not. But anyway,
there wouldn't be a good time for this.
He is going to be sorely missed, and it just really, really sucks because I don't have the time to interview people right now.
I have a theory that he'll go do this gig that I think is kind of challenging, and that's what he sees as that, like, that's part of the draw, is to do something different.
We're launching a tech company in like 3 weeks.
But he's going to want to come back.
He is going to want to come back.
Here's what it means,
it's going to suck the soul out of you. You're going to be miserable, and you are never going to find a more fun crew to work with. So have fun.
So speaking of the crew, though, here's the silver lining of him going, is our listeners, if you're a regular listener, nope. But if you're a regular listener, you've met Chad via the podcast, our transformation director. I'm moving up the list of Chad's favorite coworkers because I used to always tell people, I don't know if that's really true, but that's what I pretend. Hey, that's what I say out loud.
There's got to be some kind of silver lining.
Right? So I'm like, hey, if Ron's gone, I'm in. I'm at the top of the list.
Well, that's good. You know, and we've had to pivot 1,001 times with the project and all the stuff, and it always works out, but I'm tired.
I know.
Honestly, I'm tired.
Yeah.
And I was so excited that day. We
had a great
wrapped up symposium, our first one ever. We're trying to grow a national nonprofit, predominantly human services nonprofit event where people can come and learn from each other. And And we got amazing feedback. I was really delighted with that. And there were days where it's like, should we cancel this thing? I don't know if the tickets are going to sell. It finally did. It just was slow to get rolling. And so we pulled that off. And then that next day, it was podcast day. It's like, this is the day we're going to hit 1,000 or die trying. Yeah. And it was that morning I go in to tell Ron like how grateful I am for all of his support during Symposium. And hey, I'm giving you next Friday off. And he's like, thank you. And I'm going to resign. Oh. I'm like,
this is why I never want to be in a position. I've told Charity this many times. I have zero interest in being in a position where I have to hire or fire anybody. It's like that's my limit to it's my own glass ceiling that I've put on myself because I have such a hard time with those types of things. Like, I don't want to be responsible for it. It's one of the worst parts of the job, isn't it?
Oh, trust me, I've been questioning my life choices all week. Like, for a variety of reasons, for all the things I'm not talking about me escaping, but like that saying that no good deed goes unpunished.
It's true.
It's the fucking truth. Like, it is so absurd. And I mean, I have busted my butt on so many fronts. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, here, let me kick you again. And here, let me kick you again. And then I'll sit at my desk and like, why am I doing this? Why am I putting myself through this? And then we get another success story and another success story.
I know, it sucks you back in,
and it's like, that's why we're doing it for these people that, but people do have breaking points. And I'm trying to escape completely running away and having you guys never see me again.
Well, we have a little time right here and right now to escape the really hard stuff, and we are technically kind of in a padded cell. So let's dive in to it is a serious topic, but speaking of silver linings, in the end,
happy-ish endings. They all have endings that could have been worse.
For many years, from childhood, one of my biggest fears, and I have a lot of irrational fears, like if you've heard the Grasshopper podcast where we discuss spiders and grasshoppers, like I have oodles of irrational fears. But one of my biggest fears is being kidnapped. And as a child, I had a dream that I was kidnapped. And I still remember in that dream, the abductor told me at one point, like, I can remember the part of my hometown that we were in. And there were like people I knew across the street. And he told me I could go.
But this was the dream?
Tell them in my dream.
Okay.
And even having basically been released without incident, still I woke up and like terrified.
Some of those things stick with you. I have had dreams that I still remember from like as a kid or in college or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like they stick with you.
Yes.
That abduction thing, because that is what we're talking about today, reminded me of something that happened. What's today? Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Allegedly.
So this must have happened Tuesday. So another thing, I'm escaping funerals.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a lot about funerals this year. Mm-hmm. So my house is full of people right now, like friends that are like family.
Sure.
And my girlfriend lost her mother, and it's an awful, awful thing. Very unexpected. And so my house is full of people, and there's extended family. They're kind of staying at different places. I have the daughter of the lady who passed away and her husband.
Okay.
And then the daughter's best friend from Phoenix.
Okay.
Okay. So the guest room now, since I am an empty nester, is down in my son's old room, down in the basement. And my gym, my home gym and workout area is down in the basement. And so I thought it was odd Tuesday morning. This is so funny. Okay, so I thought it was odd that the door so when you go to the bottom of my staircase, if you open the door to the left, you go to the laundry room. If you open the door to the right, that door's always open because it just goes to the basement.
Okay.
So it's a big living room space and then a big gym space, and then you go way around, and then there's the bedroom. and some closets and stuff. And so I go down there, and I thought it was weird that the door was closed. And then I thought, well, maybe they were watching TV and they didn't want the sound to carry upstairs where my bedroom is, or, whatever. And so I don't think much of it. I also don't have contacts in because I don't typically put them in right away in the morning. So I go downstairs. I start rolling up my big area rug because my big workout mat is underneath it. Just floor protection and stuff like that. So I'll roll up the rug every morning, and it's a nice big space. And this phone was on the rug, and I'm like, my husband has 2 phones, so I thought maybe it was his phone he doesn't use very often.
Okay.
And I'm like, maybe he was down. I don't know what the hell's going on. So I just pick up the phone, stick it on the couch. I don't think anything of it. I start doing I always have to do mobility exercises, I have to do physical therapy, and then I do my workouts because of all my stuff. So I start I'm just doing stretches, and I look over my shoulder. In the corner of the basement before the bedroom is a day bed that my daughter had when she was young. And I've been wanting to get rid of it, but I store all of my boxes of Christmas paper and stuff under it, and I don't know where else I'm going to put it. So I've just left this bed there. It's decorative, it's cute, but it's like a bed in a basement. It's just kind of odd. And so I look, and there's a big lump in it, and I'm like, what the hell? So again, I can't see. So I have the lamp on, but it's still, the light is dim. I don't have the big overhead lights on. And so I go over there, and my house guest, I thought it was my husband. And I get really close, and it's not my husband, it's Jeff. And I'm like, there's a man in this bed. And then I'm like, oh my gosh. So I just left everything. I turned the light off. I got my stuff, and my phone and my workout drinks and stuff, and I crawled upstairs. So then the next day, I'm like, well.
Did you wake him up?
He didn't even know.
Okay.
And then I asked him this morning, because he woke up a little earlier while I was still getting ready for work. And I said, did I wake you up? And he's like, no. I said, what happened? Why are you on that bed? And he's like, I was snoring. I don't want to wake Alicia up. So anyway, so I laughed. But then that means yesterday, talking about back to abduction. I promise there's a thread here. So I'm like, well, I don't want to disturb anybody. I also have to work out or exercise or do something in the morning, or I'm just going to be miserable. So I'm like, I could go for a walk. 4:30 in the morning. It's dark as hell. I put my AirPods on ambient so I can at least hear if a car's pulling up behind me.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And I'm doing a 2-mile loop. I'm listening to
true crime.
It was My Favorite Murder doing an episode of what do they call it? The Dexter copycat murderer.
Okay.
Serial killer. So I'm listening to that, and I'm not power walking or anything. I'm just like walking, normal, nothing. I'm not sweating. I'm not, So I get about a mile into it, and my back says, because I didn't get to do any of my stuff in the morning, my back's like, oh, we're done. Nope. And so I start seizing up, and I'm like a mile away in the dark. I'm like, this is great. I do have my phone, obviously, because I'm listening to a podcast. Like, I think I'm going to have my husband come and get me. So then I'm sitting at a bus bench thinking, well, I can just sit down for a minute. I can stretch it out and do all this stuff. And so I'm sitting, I probably look so pathetic. This random woman at 4:30 in the morning sitting on a bus bench probably looked deranged. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, trying to stretch it out. I did make it home. I army crawled up that last damn hill. No, I didn't. Ew. I made it, but I was like, I walked in the house. My husband was awake, and I'm like, well, clearly I can't walk either, because we know standing, if I do a lot of standing, it impacts my back. Yeah. And now it's coming to walking, which is going to be a serious problem. So anyway, I was worried. And there were a couple times these cars slowed down or whatever, and I'm just like, don't stop. I'm going to start. What am I going to do? And I couldn't run. I couldn't have run if I wanted to. So I was grateful that people just left me alone. But a lot of those that you hear, it's just crimes of opportunity. It's wrong place, wrong time. It very rarely is it someone was scoped out and followed and nabbed at an opportune time. It's just like, oh, look, there's a girl. That's what I want. Or there's a person or a kid or whatever their issue is. So anyway, I hear you.
So speaking of those.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. Número uno. July 6, 2023, San Antonio, Texas. You and I have been there. It was very, very hot.
In July.
I've
never experienced heat like that in my life.
Humidity, sweat in all the places. It was bad. Although our car was fun. Okay, so San Antonio, Texas. This is pretty recent. A 13-year-old girl walking down a street, 62-year-old man. I'm not even going to name the shitbag because he doesn't deserve any publicity. But he pulls up alongside her, points a gun at her, demands she gets in the car or else he would hurt her. She gets in the car at gunpoint, and he drives from Texas to California, 1,400 miles from where she was abducted, using the threat
I just got the heebie-jeebies.
I know. Can you imagine the terror?
No.
Mile after mile. A mile.
Yeah.
It seems long anyway, but when you're
being held against your will.
Oh my gosh. I just can't even. Okay, so he kept threatening to shoot her, and he'd use that to subdue her. He did rape her multiple times. I forgot to give trigger warning. Sorry. You might want to put those up at the top.
Yeah.
So he stopped and did that 1,400-mile drive several times. And this was a stranger abduction, so no family connection, which oftentimes
very
they
unusual.
know. Yeah. No legal custody, nothing. 3 days later, he leaves her secured in a car as he enters a laundromat in Long Beach, California. The girl scrawls, "Help me," on a scrap of paper and flashes it to someone walking by the car. They saw it, acknowledged it. She hides the scrap. They call 911. Officers got their lickety-split, and as soon as she saw them, she mouthed "help" and from inside the vehicle, and that is how she got to safety.
Go girl.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So 13-year-old, still experienced. I'm probably going to cry. I'm going to cry again.
I vaguely remember
horror.
this
Do you?
being in the news. Mm-hmm. And it does. It's like 1,400 miles of terror and true crime.
But that it didn't.
But it did have.
I mean, I don't know that it didn't break her, but.
Right. But good for her. Very smart. And thankful that the person who saw the note acted quickly.
Here's the thing I don't understand. If you're a 62-year-old man, there is enough, what's the word? There's an industry big enough and diverse enough, I'm trying to use kind words, to satisfy whatever your issues are.
We've talked about
do
this.
not need to go and I just don't. 62-year-old. POS. Okay.
Number two.
I'm going to say palate. I don't have a palate cleanser. Dang it. Okay.
Like sorbet?
84. Yeah. 84, November 1984. Tampa, Florida.
We're going way back.
17-year-old Lisa McVeigh. Do you remember this story? Does that sound familiar?
I was going to say, I would have been 4 years old.
Oh, that's sucks.
Sorry.
Some days I think you're closer to my age. Stand corrected. Okay, so
I apologize.
But that name really rang a bell with me.
Okay.
So she's riding her bike home from work. She worked at a donut shop. 2:00 in the morning. She's on her way home, and she's snatched right off her bike from behind, thrown into the back of a car, again at gunpoint. Again, I'm not even going to say this guy's name. She was blindfolded, bound, forced to perform oral sex on him, raped, blah, 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 all the horror stuff. And then they drive for 20 minutes or so on the interstate. He tells her to get dressed. He takes her out of the car, takes her by the arms, walks her to his apartment. And he repeatedly raped and tortured her for 26 hours. Here's the thing. She didn't cry. This reminds me of having Laura in the studio. Okay? She didn't cry. She didn't scream or fight, even as he, in her words, raped her, quote, in every way a person can be raped. So she endured the worst of the worst. And the reason...
to throw up right now.
Isn't it? Yeah. The reason Lisa responded the way she did to this horrible assault is interesting. It's because she was born to a drug addict and alcoholic mother and was put into foster care, bounced around a lot before being forced to live with her grandmother and grandma's boyfriend at 14 years old. Grandma's boyfriend was another POS. There seems to be a theme here today. And he would sexually abuse her at gunpoint for 3 years. Grandma didn't ever do a thing about it. Grandma let it happen. What she had to say in an interview I read regarding the abduction, this man told her, "Shut up or I'll blow your brains out." So it was nothing new to her, she said. My grandmother's boyfriend used to put a gun to my head too. Not that that was a good thing. But we do learn valuable lessons from traumatic events sometimes. And in this case, because of how long she endured the abuse with her grandma's boyfriend, she was able to remain calm and good when this abductor did what he did to her. In fact, the abuse at home was so bad, she had been planning to kill herself with a bullet to the head, she said, when she got home the very day she was abducted. So there is a silver lining here.
Yeah.
After the abduction, she decided life was pretty great.
Oh.
And she was determined to get out of her predicament. And she did this by manipulating the POS, telling him she would be his secret girlfriend and that she didn't believe he was a monster and he deserved love too. And when he first took her, she stayed calm, focused on the details of where he was taking her, how many turns, anything she could, she committed to memory, or anything she could see from like the bottom of her blindfold, the interior of his car, the number of steps to his apartment, where they parked, like all of that, which his dominant hand was. I've never heard a survivor do before, but that was pretty cool. The order to his apartment, like how he kept his belongings so neat and tidy. A particular word on the dashboard of the car was Magnum, so she could see that from under the blindfold. And how she was able to see from under the blindfold is when he was tying her up, blindfolding her, she tightened her jaw and
So it
tensed all
wasn't
those
as tight.
muscles. So then when she relaxed, she could actually have some space where she could see, and she would feel everything. She would feel even how like various body parts felt and just anything. And she made sure to leave her fingerprints everywhere. So during a timeout, I guess, in the assault, he made her a sandwich, and while she was eating, she could hear news about 17-year-old Lisa McVeigh missing on the TV. And she had very smartly lied to him in the car earlier, telling him her name was Carol and that she was 19.
Wow.
That was brilliant. And when she hears this news, she starts crying and screaming, and he gets super angry and tells her he's going to be forced to shoot her if she does that again. And in the same interview that I read, she says she noticed the word of forced. And it was at that moment that she thought maybe he didn't really want to kill her. So she really honed in on that. So once she felt him leaning her way again, she told him she needed to survive to take care of her father. She was his sole caregiver. It was a total lie, but it worked. And this man eventually drove Lisa to a remote location, told her not to take the blindfold off for 5 minutes so he could make his escape. And her plan worked.
That's amazing.
So she was free. And as soon as she made it, this is my favorite part, as soon as she made it home to tell her grandmother what had happened, I lied. This is not my favorite part. My favorite part is coming. This is also horrific. She was beaten by the boyfriend for cheating on him, grandma's boyfriend.
Ew.
With this pervert
Slime
demanding
bag.
to know. Yeah, right?
Ugh.
The gall. Where had she been hooking up with someone else, he wanted to know. They just didn't believe her. But she persisted. They finally called the police 5 hours later, basically telling them not to worry about the missing girl because she came home. I mean, Grandma's a winner, let me tell you. Grandma says she's making up some story about being kidnapped. Thank God the police were still required to follow up on that. And so they did. And she told them everything she'd memorized from the ordeal, where she left fingerprints. Although skeptical, only because of how calm she was. She wasn't frantic, and I've just been traumatized and desperately, terribly assaulted, and not understanding the abuse that she'd already endured. They did follow up on it, led them right to this guy's apartment.
Wow.
And here's how that went down. Police followed the route she'd memorized. From her abduction point, she memorized the entire thing. They found him, retraced the path to an ATM she told him he'd stopped at a day ago. They searched for Magnum that was on the dashboard associated with the car, found a Dodge Magnum registered to this guy, which was the same name they were able to tie to the ATM transaction.
It's amazing.
That's how they found her. And so a couple days later, she was on TV. She saw on TV that another body had been found. And so she called Sergeant Larry Pinkerton, who was the first cop to believe her.
Wow.
And she told him she had more information about the case. He comes and gets her. He wants to hypnotize her, but because she was only 17, she needs Grandma's permission. And Grandma and scumbag boyfriend refuse, which he shouldn't even have a say. But she goes for it. So she tells Larry right then and there what Grandma's boyfriend has been doing to her, and he's arrested immediately.
Wow.
So she escaped two horrific men in her life.
In a really short period
In a really short period of time.
So it's interesting. One of the things I'm pretty sure, don't quote me, but I feel like one of the things that I learned in the ACEs training I did, ACEs being adverse childhood experiences, of course, there's a 10-question ACEs test, basically. You don't want a 10.
Things
you want
that you've
a 0.
experienced before 18 years of age.
Correct. Yeah. And I do feel like through that training that one of the things that we have learned is that a lot of times people who have higher ACEs scores, they also, in an emergency situation, you probably want them on your side more than me because, right, I haven't experienced a ton of bad things. Right. And so, like, dealing with a traumatic situation or dealing with, like, this girl is the perfect example of having been through horrific things. I'm sure her ACEs score is ridiculously high, maybe even a 10 out of 10. But it ultimately probably saved her life in this case that happened. And she was, I mean, I very well, or somebody like me, would have probably done something that would get you killed because of panic or whatever the case may be. And here she's a survivor in part because of the bad things. I mean, it just speaks so much to the resilience that some people have. And as sad and terrifying and horrifying as it is, still also powerful and, inspiring in its own way that you can be go through terrible, terrible, terrible things and end up surviving it and maybe making a difference in somebody else's life who's also been through terrible things.
I was going to get to that, actually.
Awesome.
So she actually became a sheriff later in life.
Oh, wow.
With the same agency that caught her perpetrator. Isn't that cool?
Yay.
And now she works in the schools as a resource officer.
All right.
Teaching students about how to handle predators. And she said she was determined to go into law enforcement so this did not happen to anyone else.
Good for her.
So think about that. We have people in the community, in the country, talking about eliminating school resource officers from our schools. And I mean, with what you just talked about at the top of the episode, that threat was neutralized, but that doesn't mean there's not going to be another one, and one that does yield a weapon where people are harmed. Yeah. I want my children to be protected. I want my children to be able to focus on education and not have to worry that something's getting through. And what happened in Georgia yesterday, I mean, it's the same thing. And there was a push several years ago after one of the incidents, and it was, I mean, we're in South Dakota, very red state, pretty gun friendly, and for most people it is hunting and it's personal protection, and they're never going to use it on somebody else if they don't have to. But there was kind of this push that just teachers can have, give the teachers guns. My mom was a teacher at the time, and she's like, I am not the person. I don't want a gun. Yeah.
I don't want it. And I mean, part of it was very logical in that, okay, where does it get stored safely? And then when you need it, now you have to get to the storage,
right?
So just some logistical things were at top of mind, but also just not her comfort level, right? At the same time, we used to talk about there were definitely, I had some teachers in middle school who were excellent hunters. And certainly I would have felt very comfortable with them, just because of the people I knew they were and the training I knew they had. Yeah. But I still think, I will just tell you that I complained one day very early on in the school year about traffic around the school. I asked one of the staff members, can we request a patrol? Because people are just doing dumb things when they're picking up their kids. I can't take it. What do we need to do? And she said, well, it's they're limited with staffing too, and so it's hard for them to always have somebody here, which I get. But wouldn't you know, she pulled some strings, and the next day, just standing on the sidewalk. He was just standing on the sidewalk.
That made a difference.
Made all the difference. And I will tell you, I don't think we've seen the same issues that we had those first few days.
Weird.
I'm talking about people parking on the wrong side of the street to pick up their kid. So then when they're pulling out, they're basically pulling into oncoming traffic. Those types of things that in the grand scheme of school safety are the daily things that actually
are dangerous
and matter, and kids do get hit by cars. And, so I was super grateful, and I haven't seen it really real quick.
So what you're saying, we could
I like a school resource officer at my kid's school?
Well, staffing is an issue. We could 3D print something that looks very realistic and just move it around so it's a little different spot every day.
Sure.
Most people aren't going to stare. They're just going to be like, oh, yep, there's a cop. They're going to behave.
Honest to God, I think if you had a dead police car in front of, as in no battery, nothing in it, it would help. It is. It's just the presence of some, ooh, I'm going to think twice before I make the U-turn.
Yeah.
When kids are crossing. Oh, those things. I always love my favorite thing, side note, 10 feet from an actual crosswalk. And you send your kid to play Frogger across the street.
I know.
Why? Set a good example.
I know.
All right, rant over.
Okay.
What's the next one?
Okay, this was September of 2006. Kershaw County, South Carolina, 14-year-old Elizabeth Schoaf had just gotten off the school bus, and she was walking up her driveway to her house, and she vanished.
Ooh, weird.
Yeah. Was not an alien abduction, however. For 10 whole days, police had 0 leads.
I didn't assume it was, just so you know.
Well, I mean, she vanished, vanished.
And so 2006, so pre-Ring cameras everywhere.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So fearing the worst, her parents, the police were just, each passing day, it wasn't looking good because if you're not found within 24 hours, usually it's not going to shake out real well. But somehow she was able to fire off a text message indicating she could be found in a woodland near her home. She wasn't even that far away from her house. And a grid search was deployed. They eventually heard a voice calling in the distance, and it was her. She was exhausted, clearly traumatized. And after investigating, they learned that in November of 2005, the villain in this story, 36-year-old, another POS, had been accused of sexually assaulting his girlfriend's 12-year-old daughter. And it made him so angry that he plotted a revenge scheme that would involve abducting a girl, then luring the police to his bunker in the woods where he had planted explosives and would blow up law enforcement. All because he couldn't get back at the 12-year-old girl that he had terrorized.
Wackadoo.
Yep. So he hid out in the woods, builds a bunker, loads it with weapons and explosives, then makes a homemade sheriff's uniform and badge, and that's how he approached the little girl.
Oh.
Yeah, accusing her of some made-up drug charge, handcuffed her. She's like, I don't do drugs.
Really doesn't even know what it was.
And then he led her on a very windy route through the woods. She was so confused. He was sure she couldn't find her way back if she got away. Took her to the bunker, placed a chain around her neck, raped her almost continuously, threatened to hurt her little brother if she tried to escape. But she was also a smart girl. And she'd set her mind to flipping the tables on him by being super obedient, calling him baby like he called her, telling him she loved him back, etc.
Ooh, that'd be hard to do.
It would be hard to do. You'd be throw up in your mouth every time you say it. But I'm gagging right now. But it worked. He started allowing her to go outside the bunker. He started allowing her to use his phone to play games. And she took one of those opportunities to fire off the most important text message in her life that read, "Hi, Mom. I'm in a hole across from Charm Hill where the big trucks go in and out. There's a bomb. Call police."
Wow.
And so they accessed cell phone records. They were able to corroborate the information, her text message, and the search began right away. When the guy heard the helicopters in close proximity, she acted like she was trying to protect him and said he needed to leave or else he'd go to jail. And so he fled, and then
she is a smart
girl.
Cookie.
Yeah, so next morning she was reunited with her family. They did find him walking with all his tactical items taken from the bunker, probably feeling like a real cool guy. He was sentenced to 421 years.
Excellent.
For the kidnapping and rape of Elizabeth. Yeah. I don't even buy this. Here's his quote. I used an innocent young lady as a pawn, he said. I can only hope one day they will be able to forgive me because I cannot forgive myself, he said at his sentencing. Poor baby.
He has 421 years to think about
I wonder if I fat fingered that. That seems like a lot of years.
I don't know.
But I mean, you see, is it 42? Is it like, what is it? How old did I say he was?
36?
Did I say that? Yeah.
So something like that.
Okay. Yeah, 36. Good memory. But I just thought maybe I did fat finger it. Anyway, it's a lot of years. And he deserves all those years. And then, we always talk about the why, the possible whys of like what leads people to do these things. There was a little blurb on him. The guy lost his father to alcohol poisoning when he was a baby. So he started drinking heavily when he was older because that's smart. Caused brain damage.
Yeah.
But so he's brain damaged abductor. Yeah. Doesn't excuse what he did at all. Okay.
Yeah. Remember? Explanations, not excuses.
Not excuses. Yes. Okay. This next one's also South Carolina. So they got hit. This is 2002, June. 15-year-old Kara Robinson was in the front yard of a friend's house when this guy in his 30s pulls up, approaches her under the guise of offering her pamphlets and asking if her mom was home. She told him, well, it's my friend's house. My mom's friend's not home. So the man didn't waste any time holding a gun to her neck, ordering her into the storage bin in the back of his Trans Am. I'm sorry, the Trans Am piece just gives you a total picture of this guy, doesn't it? Kind of. In 2002. Sorry. It's pretty funny.
It's not funny.
But you got to laugh. Okay, I'm not going to say his name either. Man with the gun, 38-year-old. He happened to be a serial killer.
Oh, my.
She was able to escape after 18 hours of the worst things imaginable. She was smart like some of these other young ladies we've talked about, counting the turns he made, memorizing anything she could in order to turn over to the police if she survived. She memorized the cigarettes he smoked, the serial number on the inside of the storage bin she was sealed in, that he liked classic rock, that his apartment...
I mean, he's in a Trans Am.
Very true. Very true. That his apartment was cluttered with a bunch of pets and tanks. That his doctors and dentists' info was on the refrigerator. She memorized that. That was smart. She stayed totally calm. And when he'd offer her food, she'd say she wasn't hungry and instead ask what she could do for him. When she was sleeping, she was able to pull one of her hands free of the handcuffs, somehow using her teeth. And then once her hand was freed, she was able to get her leg restraint off. She made her way to the front door as quietly as she could, unbolting the double locks. Like I said, he had a gun, and so she was afraid that he would shoot her in the back at any moment. But she kept her composure and ran for it when she got the door open. She found some men in a parking lot who took her to the police station, and her amazing memorization of these details led police right to this guy. But he clearly had woken up and found her missing, and then he ran.
Okay.
But once in his apartment, they found a locked footlocker with various newspaper clippings about some unsolved murders from 5 years earlier and realized they had stumbled upon a serial killer. So, yeah, a 16-year-old girl disappeared from her front stoop in Spotsylvania, Virginia on September 9th. Her remains were found a month later in a creek. 1977, a 15-year-old girl and a 12-year-old girl were abducted from their home. They were found 5 days later. Cases went cold, but when they found him, they were able to crack all of those cases.
Wow. Well,
so there is a theme here.
The
of
one who got
calm.
away is responsible for a lot of
solving these other ones.
Amazing.
And I mean, you can't. That's the thing. I know, like there's a lesson and a theme of remaining calm. There is something to that, keep calm and whatever. But it's also hardwired. You can't control how you're going to respond. So in these cases, and it could be because of the fighting tendency, like if you are triggered in this way and you fight instead of remain calm, we probably don't hear those stories because they didn't survive.
Yeah.
That's the sad reality of it.
Yeah.
So we'd like to say, I will fight. I'm going to go down fighting, but statistically, you're more apt to survive if you
Yeah. Well, and it's still not your fault. I mean, However you respond and whatever their response is to your response, not your fault.
I just know that, I've beat myself up, and I've seen other people do it too, where I shouldn't stand, like I should be able to fight back. I should be able to, you beat yourself up for allowing things to happen. Don't do that, because you don't get to control it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, 2003, San Jose, California, 9-year-old, I'm so sorry, Jeanette Tamayo was just coming home from school when a man followed her right into her house. Her mom and brother came shortly after, and he severely beat both of them and then abducted Jeanette, stuffing her inside a box in the back of his car, much like the guy we just talked about. He took her to a house, handcuffed her in an upstairs bedroom, did all those stuff.
Yeah.
But much like the previous escape artist we've already talked about in this episode, she decided, again, she's going to outsmart him. She's 9, and she's like,
oh, they're pretty smart.
Game on,
I can
you
attest.
son of a... Yeah. So she starts earning his trust. In fact, District Attorney Matt Breaker, who prosecuted the case, said that killers often dehumanize their victims. So she really tried to have him see her as a person. And that's really what probably kept her alive. She said it was really hard to talk to him when she wanted to punch him, but she treated him like a human being, and she started to reciprocate, which he started to reciprocate, and began trusting her. He soon removed her handcuffs. He let her move around the house. She kept talking to him, telling him of all her plans for the future and her love for her family. And then she saw some sort of piece on asthma on TV when he let her watch TV, and decided to tell him that she had asthma and needed medicines or she would die without the medicine. But because she'd earned his trust and he saw her as a human, he felt bad. And so he let her go. He dropped her off on a street and bolted. She was able to give police all the details, and they found him. He was 26 years old, preparing to run when they captured him. He was sentenced to over 100 years.
Wow.
And I'm going to say that actually brought up a memory of like that, earning their trust and becoming like trying to humanize yourself. I won't say what major motorcycle gang, but when I was 14 years old, I think I've told you the story offline.
I think so too.
I was working at a restaurant. I was waiting tables, and every year we have the big Sturgis rally here. And so bikers from all over the world will come to this event. They will ship their bikes. It's just this big thing. And the restaurant I was working at was next door to a hotel where this one major biker gang would stay. And so they'd always come over to the restaurant. So I got to know some of them. So at 14 years old, I start hanging out with this biker gang. And I would sneak out of my house, and I would get on the back of a bike with some guy that lived in Texas. That's all I knew. I knew his name, but that was it.
Oh, my.
And he's in a biker gang. And, when you're 14 years old and you're hanging out with this biker gang, you don't get carded going to the bars. And I had a severe drinking issue then. And so I'm like, party on. They're not carding me. This is great. Go to Sturgis, back and forth, all this stuff. This went on for years.
Okay.
This went on for years. At no point, there were a couple times I was a little uncomfortable with some of his brothers. He was never inappropriate, ever in all these years. Fast forward to now, I'm 19 years old. I have actually met my now husband.
Okay.
We're dating. He's not my type. Clearly not my type. But I'm kind of digging it.
30 years later.
Yeah. Well,
he might be your type.
He might be my type now. But it turns out I do like nice guys. It turns out.
Just one.
Who would have thought? Just one, yeah. But so he comes back, and I'm thinking, one last hurrah, because we would get together every year during the rally. So he's like, hey,
and it wasn't romantic, right?
Nope, not at all.
Not at all.
He was never inappropriate with me. He would never let. And this is interesting because in this particular gang, I don't know if it's that way because this is the only biker gang I've ever hung out with. Women are property.
I know.
And they are shared.
Uh-huh.
And
can I just say I know only because of my news experience and having lived here a long time and heard from people. I don't personally know any of it.
I mean, I heard all kinds of stories, and I would talk with the women, the property, and I don't know. He just always protected me. Nothing ever happened except me getting drunk, and one time fell off the back of his bike, but that was tequila. Tequila's the devil. So anyway, I'm now 19 years old. It's rally time. He's back in town. Hey, let's hit the rally. Of course, da-da-da. We go. We have fun. This is the first time ever because they don't typically go off anywhere by themselves. They're always in packs, right? And he wants to peel off from the group of his brethren, if you will, and head back to Rapid. And he's my ride. So I'm like, oh, no, it's a little odd. That's never happened. This is new. And so get on the bike, start heading back to Rapid. And he pulls over off of the interstate. There used to be a rest stop between Rapid and Sturgis. It's not there anymore. He pulls off, but it's dark. I think it had already been kind of shelled or whatever, where they close up the windows. The lights aren't working. It's like we're not an operable rest stop, but the buildings, the structures were still there. So he pulls over, and you know my intuition. So that I'm going to vomit,
gut reaction,
feeling like my solar plexus is just shaking, and I'm like, oh, my luck just ran out. My luck just ran out. This isn't going to end well. And so I did what this young lady did. I started talking about all these years that I've known him and how safe I have felt with him. And I just went on and on and on. Now, at this point, he's off his bike. I'm still sitting on the bike. And he's facing me. And I'm just like stroking his ego and like blah, 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 blah.
And reminding him
that I trusted him.
We've had years and you've been good to me.
5 years.
Don't change it now.
Don't blow it, buddy.
Yeah.
And he was much older. So I think he was probably 36 when I met him. I was 14.
Wow.
So that's not okay.
Not okay.
Anyway, you could feel it stop. So I know not everybody has this, but my intuition is very heightened and strong. And so I could feel it when he changed his mind. And it just went, boom, calmed right down. I'm like, okay, we made it back where my car was parked at his hotel. And that's the only time, like, he moved in to kiss me. And I just held my hand up and I said, I don't feel that way about you. And I've met somebody that I really, really like. And I don't want to screw it up. So I'm going to ask you to respect that. And he did. And that was the last time I saw him. I did hear after I, went to Mines and moved on that he finally figured out my last name, my maiden name, and he found my parents' house and was trying to find me.
Ooh.
But never succeeded. Of course, they didn't give it up. So, yeah, that was the last time I saw him. So I had someone looking out for me. But there is something to that, making people trust you and seeing them as a human. I mean, I think my luck was very, very close to running out that night. That was horrifying. And when I think back to that, especially because we just, the rally just ended here not too long ago, and I'm watching all this and I'm just like, oh my God, what would I have done if my daughter did this that I did?
I actually think I saw that
Horrifying.
particular gang on my way home from something during the rally, toward the end of the rally. And I was like, it's Charity's old buddies over there. No, I didn't think that. But I do kind of think of you now when I see them.
Well, and there was a mix, too, with all the shenanigans my dad was involved with that, did overlap with some of that. So it wasn't, but I mean, it's just not.
It's ill-advised,
okay.
folks.
Ill-advised. Yeah, don't. This is a lesson of what not to do. But I can relate to this young lady here, so.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and talk about someplace we actually want to escape to, not just the things we want to escape from. Keep it here. Hey, listeners, did you know we are podcasting for a cause here in the Escape Pod? Patron support benefits the One Heart campus in Rapid City, South Dakota, where we empower people to overcome crisis and achieve self-sustainability. To learn more, listen to our prologue episode all about One Heart or visit oneheartrc.org. Welcome back into the Escape Pod,
where we like counting.
Charity loves my countdowns.
Well, she does it different every time. Sometimes it's in 3, 2, 1.
It's
sometimes
very
it's
intentional.
In 3, 2, and then there's no one. And then sometimes today it was 3, 2, 1. But you didn't say 1. 3, 2. So I'm just like, it just makes me chuckle.
Okay, where are you escaping to?
I don't know.
A place in your mind. Come on, help me out here.
Help you out here. Oh, well,
Getting a massage, going for a walk, going to dinner.
We've already established I can't do any of this stuff because my workload's too big. No, I am escaping to...
Going to a concert.
No, I guess my house guests that are here, they're still here. They don't fly out till tomorrow, so I'll go home and probably have some adult beverages, which I cannot. My girlfriend, Alicia, we have this theory. I don't know where she puts it. She's like 5 foot tall. She's short, and she can outlast me. I mean,
some people.
I can't even make it through one drink anymore. It's just like, it's almost like just a prop. So I always have good intentions, like, yeah, let's do this. And then it just never goes very far. But
I was listening to a radio show this morning where they were talking about, well, it's been like 30 years since Hootie and the Blowfish first like hit the scene and had an appearance on David Letterman. And then like basically that was a Friday night. And by Monday, they exploded. I mean, it's what I think everybody who wants to be in a band dreams of. And it like really happened to them, right? And the point they were making was like, so they go to a different city every night, and the people in that city are like, hey, you're here, let's go party. Like the people who get the backstage passes, like all they want to do is party with the rock stars. And the rock stars have this every night, but still have to do like a performance every night before the party. And so it was just kind of funny how like they said, you know, for a time, a lot of groups, it's like heavy hitting, right? And it's bonkers how they go. But a lot of them, as they age and have different lifestyles and whatever, that changes. But it was kind of hilarious because they were just like, you know, the people in the city think, you're here with me tonight. I want to party with the rock
best
star.
Night of my life.
This is amazing. And the rock stars are like, I'm doing this every night.
I will tell you, having been backstage at some shows, my favorite one, and the strategy was, this was backstage at Aerosmith in 1990 probably.
Speaking of the rally, I saw him fall off the stage there.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Well, he was still in prime form when I got to meet him.
Excellent.
And so, you know, we're backstage and there's all these girls throwing themselves at the band members.
Course.
And my friend and I just go sit at a table quietly, and that's where he came to, because we were just sitting. And it was the best interaction. He was super nice, super down to earth. Took pictures with him. He signed a $1 bill that I stupidly gave to my dad because I thought it would be like a nice bridge builder. I'm never going to get that back now, but whatever. But yeah, that we have and it was just very nice, and he was appreciative that we weren't
crazy.
Yeah, so
I believe that.
I imagine that would get exhausting.
Yeah,
like, oh, let me touch you. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, you know me, I've met some, you know, pretty interesting people over the years, and I am like the reporter in me kicks in, and I just want to ask all the questions, and I probably drive them crazy, but
I didn't even think of that. I was still so shocked. Yeah, I'll show you that picture one day, but when he pulled me in, like, it surprised me. So he's going like has this look, and I'm going like, I don't know what just happened, but he was very lovely.
We should probably attach that to the show notes.
Should I? Let's see if I can find it.
That would be kind of fun. Okay. We'll try.
Listeners,
we'll do our best.
Charity? Okay, Steven Tyler photo. All right. I will show you proof. Okay.
I am escaping, I hope, to just a good book. So funny enough, it's a sequel to a book I read and ended up not loving that much. But the second book I'm kind of into. Just a piece of fiction. And but you do see where the characters ended up, and I think it's going to have a happier ending. That's part of probably why I like it. If you haven't noticed yet, folks, we have to end on happy notes, and that's how I live my life.
You do have to end on happy notes. So thank you for tuning in. We sincerely appreciate your support. That was the best day. Hitting over 1,000 downloads. I mean, and
keep it coming,
it feels
folks.
like it's taken forever, but 6 months really isn't that long. So thank you for your support. We appreciate all the feedback. If you like what you heard, please share it with a friend who you think might also enjoy it. And we're not doing this to entertain ourselves, although we do try to also entertain ourselves. But we're doing it to help support. It's a cause. Like it's supporting the One Heart Campus. We're a 3-person show, writing, researching, producing, promoting it all on our own, on top of our day jobs. So please rate, review, subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. It really helps small podcasts like us gain more exposure. You want to tell them where they can find us, Julie?
Nope, because I don't have it pulled up.
Oh, okay. Well, I will tell you then. You can link out to anywhere you listen to podcasts through our website at escapepod.live. You can check out our socials through there. You can reach out to us at justbecause at escapepod.live or share your escape story with us to possibly be shared on a future episode at escapeartist at escapepod.live.
Hashtag podcast fail just now. Oops.
Hashtag it's been a long week.
Time to close the old hatch on the escape pod. Remember, trauma may be inevitable. How you grapple with it is optional.
Like losing words. So stay resilient
and keep laughing.
Thank you, everybody.